It's rare when someone can change that easily.
I grew up getting laughed at and beat on. When that happens, you learn how to survive any way you can. And sometimes you make the wrong choices. It might not be easy to change, but I did, Dr. Sweets. You know, G-Man, I could make you look fabulous.
I'm straight, thanks.
So was Jenny. The best part about it was my mother called and said, well, what do they have to do to make you look like a lesbian? Nothing. Yes, Gap. Grossed out about poop. I'm Gap, okay?
Since when?
I don't know. I think I've always been this way.
Nothing wows like vintage Madonna.
This is Miss Label. She runs a pizza joint in River Park.
And what did Glenda teach you?
I learned how to market myself. Half off a large pepperoni. If you bring in your ticket stub from the show. As soon as we found out that Sam was running, we knew that we had to get behind him and do something. Oh, okay. All right, up here, I'm gonna stop talking before I screw it all up. Until I find out he's been bad-mouthing me to other club owners around town, saying that I'm unprofessional. After that, people stopped hiring me.
www.andyandroryputontheirownroof.com.
Would you like to be on our show?
What would I have to do?
Can you work a router?
Oh, so you went to Mission Hills High School?
Yes, sir.
My sister went to Mission Hills.
Where you go to school?
Oh, I went to an all-boys boarding school back east.
That sounds hot. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I guess it was kind of hot. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit thrown. I didn't know you were...
Gay?
Yeah. I apologize.
No problem.
Couple of well-placed friends, some dynamite, 8x10s before you can reap those big-time dividends.
There's so many places I could go with you because, we were talking about, training and all that, and you trained at the American Academy of Dramatic Art in New York.
I did. I was so hell-bent on going to New York. I lived in a really nice little town. It's Pleasanton, California, in Northern California. We had a great little life, a great community. There was great theater there. San Francisco was like a stone's throw. LA wasn't even that far. But somehow I was like, it's New York or nothing. And, I was so sure that, so dramatic. I think I had seen Thoroughly Modern Millie one too many times.
I love that movie.
Gotta escape to the big city. And also I had
Raspberry.
Raspberries. I do have to say, too, that I had gone through a health scare after my senior year in high school. I had a growth on my brainstem. So I had, and everything was fine, and the surgery was fine, and I recovered over a period of 3 months. But I think I had a zest for life on the cusp of 18, 19, where I was like, that's it, I'm going for life. And I moved to New York and went to the American Academy, and I had so much fun there. It was hanging around people who felt exactly the same way I did about theater. I never got to go to a camp as a kid. So while my drama program at high school was great, it was really there were 2 or 3 other kids who had the same zest for the theater that I did. So going to college was totally different because everyone from the person that checked you in at the front door you know, to probably the janitor. I mean, we all had the same zest, and we got to in this romantic building from the turn of the last century, and you went into the library and it looked like the scene out of Beauty and the Beast. You know, the library books crawled all the way to the roof, and they were books all on acting. So it was just like, oh, come on, it was just a dream come true. I sort of fantasized, because I didn't finish school, but I always sort of fantasized that someday I would go back and spend a year or two, you know, just studying. Like, what else could you learn once you think you've developed your craft to a certain point? What if you went back into intensive study and did it all again?
I tell you, when you said the janitor, I pictured him like Dick Van Dyke dancing with the mop in the bathroom.
I don't doubt it. That was a romantic building.
Oh gosh, you know, okay,
I know, and I do have to apologize. Like when we say like well-rounded artist, I may have rounded too many corners. Like it's hard. It's hard to stay on one subject.
Well, I was gonna say, when my autobiography comes out, my name is Sybil, but I mean, you're more like Sybil. I'm the three faces of Eve, but I know some people won't get that. But you know, okay, the next thing I have here is America's Got Talent.
Oh yeah. And that came like sort of when we were talking before about letting cabaret and, you know, to sort of be your own creator and to self-create something. That was the best thing that could have happened to me in terms of cabaret, because I had built it for maybe 5 or 6 years at that point. And I was about to go, John and I were getting married in Mexico, and we were getting on the airplane, and a producer from the very first season of America's Got Talent, who worked for Fremantle, who had done American Idol, and, you know, Simon Cowell. I don't know if these are too many name drops, but
drop it.
but they sent someone to see my show then like the week before. And I was getting on the plane, and this wonderful producer called me and said, hey, we would love for you to come be a part of this new show that Simon Cowell's company is doing. And it's called America's Got Talent, and it's sort of Gong Show meets American Idol. And I think I was so excited to be going to get married and to be like, you know, we had like 80 friends and family on a beach in Mexico. We were getting on a plane to go meet everyone. And then we were staying for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I remember saying to the producer, and I had never been this confident in my entire life. And it was probably because I was like, I mean, my social life's killing it over here. I'm going to get married. I just said, I will be back on this date at this time. That's when my flight back is. Let's talk that day, because I'm going to get married and I'm not talking business. And they were like, okay. And Jason he was so great. He called me back, like literally, I think we were still in the airport coming home from Mexico. And he called me and was like, we would love for you to come be on this show on Saturday. And this was like a Tuesday. And I said, well, I need my own musicians. Because they had said, can you perform a track? And I was like, that's not what I do. So it's very clear from the beginning that what you saw in live concert, if you want that to come onto camera, I have to be able to present that on camera. So you can't give me a new musician. You can't give me a track. I needed it to where I could do what I had perfected at that, you know, not perfected in a way of like, it's perfect, but what I had worked so hard to do. So they said, yes. I went, and I was one of 2 people to not get any of the X's that night, which then didn't really mean anything to us because it was the first season. We had no idea what it was. But I didn't expect that what would happen was the manipulation like they do of reality TV. So when we had a live audience, they were mean. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. There was like some real trickery that happened. They would make the audience react to things that they weren't watching. So they would like walk around, and I'm sure they do this on all shows, but they'd walk around and be like, you've just seen the funniest thing you've ever seen in your life. And the person would laugh hysterically. And now you've seen something that you do not like, and you are confused what's on stage right now. And then they would piece together the reactions to the performers. So it was super scripted, and we knew that. But overall for me, it was a great experience because our production company had already released 2 albums. So all it did by me being on the show was get more people to see my concerts, to get more people to buy my music. So for us, it was like, I was like, I'm not going to win. I mean, there's no way I'm going to win. I just needed to know that the confirmation of being able to be myself was what I was going to get out of it. And they tried to out me on the first show. They had all their setup script. It was I'll tell a very brief story, but before I went on the very first time, I was singing a great cabaret song written by David Friedman called My Simple Christmas Wish, which the joke of it is I want to be rich, famous, and powerful, and I don't ever want to work. And so that's the song they had asked for. So I was like, great, I'll do that. And Kelly Park, my musical director of years, and I were new to the environment. We were like, ooh, double gulp. We walked out onto stage, and the microphone was supposed to have been preset on a stool out there for me. And the sound guy went to go hand me the microphone backstage, and I was like, oh no, actually it's supposed to be preset. It's like a bit. And he's like, oh, okay. So the sound guy runs out to set the mic, and I see my picture on like a clipboard, and I'm like, well, that's kind of fun. Like I always get so excited by the journey of everything that I'm like, my picture's on something, so I'm gonna look at it. So I picked up his clipboard, and it said producer's notes. David Hasselhoff was one of the judges, and it had scripted David Hasselhoff to say, you will hate him. And so I was like, what am I about to step onto stage to? Like, oh, double gulp. Like, no, what do I do? And they were announcing me. And I was like, you know what? You're going to do what you've been doing for the last 5 years, which is this number. And you've been killing this number on stage for 5 years. Why would you think that you shouldn't be able to do it in front of 500 people on national television live? Yeah. So I was like, okay, it wasn't live. It was a pre-tape. So I go in and do it, and right away, Pierce Morgan is like, you were born to do this. And Brandy was our second judge, and she was like, your comic timing is impeccable. You are hysterical. I love everything you just did. And David Hasselhoff was like, I was prepared to hate you. And I literally said, because I have no filter, I literally was like, I know. And he was just like, and then I think to sort of save the joke, maybe, they were like, can you tell us what you would do with the money? And I think I know I said something like invest in my career and buy a new car. And then I said, and I would invite Meryl Streep to dinner. Because, 20, I think I was 27 at the time, 27-year-old gay boy Shawn was like, I'm going to get a date with Meryl Streep out of this if it's the last thing that kills me. Like, I'll do that. And so I said that, and they said, that's funny, you don't strike us as a ladies' man. And it was really interesting because I sort of felt like I was open and out. Like I said, I had 2 albums out where I talked, where the pronouns were he, like, I can't think of the song, but any pronoun that would have he or she, I was always saying he. So I wasn't afraid of being outed, but it did strike me as sort of strange that you wouldn't run that by someone before, like, are you comfortable talking about you being gay? Are you open? That was a little bit of a weird thing. So in that moment, I just turned it right back to a joke. And I was like, oh, no, but the gays love Meryl. And everyone laughed. And I got off stage, and Regis Philbin was there, and they were like, we want to interview you right now. And I was like, cool, because I had just like triumphed. Like, it was like crazy, and the energy was crazy. And of course I felt that crazy energy. I walked off stage, and like Jason, my producer, was like, we want to interview you right now. And there was a camera in my face. And I was like, okay, just real quick. I just want to visit the restroom. I want to get some powder, and then I'll be back. And Regis Philbin's walking by, and he goes, I like that kid. And I remember feeling in that moment that I had won, that there was no winner of a contest. That was never going to be a factor for me. Yeah. I knew, like, oh, I was who I was supposed to be on national television, unafraid, though deeply afraid, like so scared. Yeah. But presenting unafraid, presenting confidence, and it was rewarded. And that, from that moment forward, I was like, okay, I'm just going to be the best me I can be. Like, that's all I can do on this show, and just keep coming back and having fun and loving the journey. So for me, it was great. I don't know if everyone else has that perfectly timed awakening during the process. So when people say, like, should I do it? I'm always like, that's not something I can't guide you into that. That would be
too, you prepared. I mean, you had been preparing and performing, and you had 2 albums. So, and you had that timing. You had the lifetime.
And to be fair, when I didn't make it any further in the show, when I was cut from the show, it was because I tried a brand new number. because they wanted more. They wanted bigger. They were like, what about a big band? What about, and so we brought in like 4 horns, and I think it was like a 9-piece band at that point. And it was sort of like, well, that's not really what I do. I've since then, you know, grown into the big band arrangements and stuff, but that's not really what I do. I sing about, you know, Snow White accidentally letting an F-bomb slip at Disneyland. You know, that's my bit. It's not like I'm going to be like, it had to be you. You know, like, where are you going to get with that? That's just not, I can do it, but I don't know that that's what was showcasing me best. So to be fair, when I got cut from the show, it was because I had fallen off who I was in terms of an artist. So.
Right. Well, I have to say, when I think of even cabaret, I think there's certain people that come to mind, a handful of people, and you're one of them. And one of my favorite pieces that you do is that Streisand medley.
Oh yeah.
You do, how many songs of hers do you do in like 3 minutes or something like that?
Yeah, well, Clifford Bell had asked me to be a part of the Barbra Streisand birthday extravaganza, and I was so excited. Yeah. And I just kept asking him, like, can I do this song? And he was like, no, it's taken. I was like, can I do this song? He's like, no, it's taken. And finally I was like, why don't you send me a list of the songs that haven't been taken? If all these other people have signed on and I'm one of the last to sign on or whatever, send me the songs that haven't been taken. And he sent me a list, and I just wrote back, yes. And he was like, which one? And I was like, I'm gonna do all 24 of these songs. And he's like, are you crazy? And the first time I did it, because it's in the song Down with Love, and Barbra Streisand had already said, like, because I talk to the trees, but they don't listen to me. So she had already done an arrangement in the 60s, I think late 60s, of Down with Love, where she incorporated like 8 love songs that she thought were sort of flouncy and funny, and it's a genius arrangement. So the only thing I did was just take her 8 songs out and then pluck in 24 of her songs, push in 24 of her songs. And the word on the street was that that night was so full of musicians that they had to have 3 piano players, and then my accompanist was there as well. So the other 3 piano players stood to the side, and one of them said, he did this in sound check, but I'm betting that because the 24 tunes are done just to a bongo with no melody. And they said, we're betting that he can't stay on key for the 24 songs, because it starts in the key of D and it ends in the key of D. And they were like, there's no way. So they had side bets that I was gonna mess up. So when I came off stage, one of the piano players was like, you just won me $5. And I was like, how? And he's like, because you stayed on key the whole time. And I was like, well, I don't know about that. Like, unless anyone was holding a tuning fork the whole time. But it was so fun to do. And I kept doing it year after year, hoping that at some point Barbra Streisand was going to call and be like, kid, good job. Or however she would say that. I don't do a Streisand. She didn't. I've never heard from her. She's watching this now. I'm sure she's watching this now.
Of course she's watching this now.
Please find me.
I'll email it to her.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
I have her email. Oh my God. And then, besides singing and running your own camp and being on America's Got Talent, you've been an actor in Famous in Love, Bones, The Mentalist. And then, and this is wonderful, you directed and wrote and acted in this wonderful film. And thank you and the wonderful John for coming to Performing Arts Studio West with your movie Randy.
Yes, I loved that so. I mean, that day at Performing Arts West was like one of our best days. Val and I were just talking about it. It was so much fun just to be in the space, and also to have created a project that we hoped would speak to the whole world.
Hi, I'm Randy. That's me. Did you ever have one of those days that could possibly change your life forever?
This is your day. This is yours, just go out and get it. You're gonna get this, okay?
Today, I choose happiness and fabulousness out of life. I give it my all every single day. Is fabulousness even a word? It is now. I'm Randy. This is my movie. Nope. Early bird. Gotta wait.
But so to briefly tell the viewers who haven't gotten to see Randy, it stars Paul DiVincenzo, who is this amazing actor.
He's wonderful. And he flew in from the East Coast, right?
Yes, yeah, he flew in with his mom from the East Coast to come to Performing Arts West for this amazing screening of Randy, which is a film about a young man who goes for a job interview. He happens to like cheer on a random jogger that morning, just because he's an amazing, life-fulfilling, fabulous, as he says, human being. And he cheers on this amazing woman who's jogging in the morning, who's going through a really hard time. And then it turns out at this dream job interview that he has that she's the boss. And so it sort of is this karmic story. And what's interesting and was so fun to play with was that the character of Randy happens, among so many other things, he happens to have Down syndrome. And of course, Paul, the actor who played him, happens to have Down syndrome. But it wasn't something that we ever discussed in the piece, right? We wanted this story to just be about this guy who had a dream, who went for an interview, who had a supportive community. And at one point, the character that I play, who's like the first interviewer, sort of not the nicest guy, ends up like stumbling over the fact that he's noticing that Paul has, or that Randy has Down syndrome. And then he sort of like covers it. So it's a very, like, what we heard from the communities over and over where this movie was being screened was that, like, it was so cool to just watch a movie that didn't necessarily have to do with the character having Down syndrome, you know? And that's how I felt growing up as a gay man. There were so many stories that we were watching, and I'm so thankful for these stories. So there's no judgment on it. But every story that I watched where a gay person was the lead, it was about the person being gay, right? Like about the person coming out or about the person finding out they have AIDS. And it was just like, okay, we get it. Like, we get that gay is a thing. We get that people are gay. Can I just watch a love story that happens to be two men or happens to be two women where they're not having to deal with any challenges or triumphs or anything that have to do with them being gay? So the longer that you know I was in the industry, like Famous in Love, you mentioned that TV show, and that was great because it was never mentioned in the show that I was gay. I was clearly playing a gay man, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter to the story. The only thing that mattered was that my character was sensitive and understood what the lead in the story was going through. So I kept like talking to her about it. And in fact, it's funny on some shows where you go, you know, like, oh, do we really have to explain this in every scenario? And in some cases, it does make sense. You know, I did an episode of The Mentalist, which was a GLAAD nomination for the show, because they took a storyline of a gay bullied kid who basically went into hiding. And so that was important to talk about the fact that he was gay. But just more and more, we just thought, like, how can we create, our production company and my writing specifically is about underdogs who don't see themselves as underdogs. So I think that's sort of the superhero power that a lot of us have that we don't access, is that while the world may see you one way, only you know what's truly inside, and how much of that can you let shine. So if people see you as the gay character, cool, that's your foot in the door. But then what can you show them once you're in? Or if someone wants to do, you know, inclusive and or diverse casting, cool. So you're going to get in the door, maybe because the production company has decided to do inclusive casting. Cool. That's your foot in the door. That's awesome. Now, don't be afraid to show the real you once you're there. Do you know what I mean? Don't ever let them type you as like the kid with Down syndrome, or, you know, the kid who's in a wheelchair, or that actor who is hard of hearing. Like, careful. That may be your foot in the door, but then don't let them just keep you as that. Show them all the nuances that you've been working on as an actor, as a performer, as a human.
There's so many parts of you.
So many parts. And that's, I think, what's really interesting. And that's oftentimes why I when people are saying like your casting is so inclusive, I think that's great. But really what draws me to an actor is when they know themselves. So all the rest of the stuff is sort of just like the icing on the cake. I want to give everyone an opportunity. And I was talking to an actor today who doesn't fit the, typical cookie cutter, stereotypical actor. And I was like, you know what, nowadays, I don't know that many do. And I think that those that do have shorter careers. I don't think you want to be a model who acts. I think, well, that's putting down models. I don't mean to do that. I just mean, I don't think you want to be a stereotypical who stays in the stereotype. So if it's like, for example, if it's pretty blonde girl, like Malin Ackerman is like the best example of this. Malin Ackerman played the pretty blonde girl on The Comeback, right, with Lisa Kudrow on HBO, which is like one of my favorite shows ever. She was so much more than the pretty blonde girl, so much more than that on that show. And every chance she had to show the humanity of that character, she did. And then her roles after that were so vastly different, and she gets to sort of be whoever she wants to be now as a creator. But even when she wasn't, when her name wasn't on the creators list, she still was bringing so much life to those characters. So it's more than possible. And I think it's our job as artists to be able to help the creatives see what we can do and not just expect them to write us in, to give us, the space. Of course, the opportunity, yes, every producer should be giving as many opportunities as they can. But then it's our responsibility when we go into the room to say like, hey, so I'm 6'4" and 200 pounds. That's not typical, right? Like most actors of the movie star quota have 3% body fat and are 5'9" because they don't want to make anyone look too tall or too short. Cool. Well, I can't do anything about that. So sit me down. If you ever watch me on TV, you will totally recognize that I am seated 99% of my television career. And until I say that, you're like, wait a second? Because every time I show up to set, the other actors are like, he's gonna sit, right? Like, I think that was David Boreanaz was the first one to say it, because he's 6'4" and he's a tall drink of water. I'm sure he's well worth the climb, but he is 6'4". And that was from Ann Hampton Callaway, by the way. I don't want to take anyone else's joke. Ann Hampton Callaway, thank you for that joke. But David Boreanaz walked onto set, and I'm 6'4", he's 6'4", but I was in 3-inch heels because I was playing a drag queen. And I was standing next to the bar, and he walked right up, looked at the director, and goes, I think he said she, because he was being super sensitive, because he didn't know if I identified as he or she, because I was in drag. He was like, she's going to be seated, right? And they were like, yes, of course. Of course. So comical. Yep, you can only be who you are. All 6'4" of you, and whatever you got going for you, you got to remember that's what makes you so special. Own it. Own it, own it, own it, because it makes you more special than you'll ever know. And if you're like me and you just have to like hear the advice and tuck it away and know that you may not fully believe it, but still just fake it till you make it. Walk into that room, roll into that room, whatever you got going for you, it's going to make you more special than any other actor out there. And I tell my actors that all the time. If you could sit in an audition room, I mean, David, I know you've done this in casting. If you sit in an audition room, you watch 8 out of 10 people do it the way they think it should be done, the way the writing suggests. And I'm not saying go so far off script that you play something, far opposite. But if you own the material and you bring yourself to the role, that's what gets you the role.
Right. And then you don't have to be nervous about, am I doing this right? Because if you're coming from yourself, then you are doing it right.
Absolutely. And there's so many roles. Like lately, I've been getting a lot of drag, because drag is being written into television so much more, which is so awesome. And because I played Destiny Childs on Bones, there are so many people that think like, oh, go for Shawn, he's the drag queen. And I'm like, actually, P.S., I'm not a drag queen. I'm an onstage performer. And I think some of the time I get the drag roles because I'm an actor before I'm a drag queen. But in so many cases, I'm like, oh, this is a drag queen's role. Like, you need to get Bob the drag queen. You need to get Shangela. You need to get one of those professional drag queens to play this role. But I'm not going to like write my agent and be like, thanks for the opportunity, but I think Shangela is more right for this. No, you're just going to do the best job you can. I was just on a socially distanced road trip driving through Idaho. And literally I got a call for station 19 to audition for this drag role. And I ended up at a Walmart in the middle of Idaho finding drag. Like, I was like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to go to Cross Dress for Less, which is what I call Ross Dress for Less. I'm going to find a $12.99 top. I'm going to find a Halloween wig. I didn't have anything. And, went to my hotel room that night, hung up a gray sheet and was like, okay, let's do this. Let's find this. Even though I knew the whole time, like, oh, this is Shangela's. I can't remember who got it.
Right.
I can't remember, but it was a drag queen. It was a RuPaul's drag queen, which is cool. But the point of telling that story is that you still need to show up and be like, look, this is how I would do this role. This is how I would play this character. And if it's not that job, it's going to be the next job. They're going to call you in for something. One of my biggest advocates and also one of the nicest human beings on the planet is the casting director, Geraldine Flood. And every single time I go in to read for her, and she might say this to every actor, I don't know. She's always like, oh, I've been waiting all day for Shawn Ryan to come do this. And it's just like the best intro to be like, thanks. I'm excited about this too. And do you know, I've never been booked by Geraldine, but I know that Geraldine's a fan of my work. And that's what you have to hold on to. Like those people that keep advocating for you your whole life. And eventually, at some point, I think the famous story is the man from Mad Men who was in Bridesmaids, whose name I can't, John Hamm. Thank you, Valerie. Valerie is my right hand and my left brain on so many occasions. David says that. So literally John Hamm auditioned for Cheers, auditioned for Frasier, and it was like a no. They were like, he's so attractive and he's so talented, but we can't find the right thing for him. So to think that all of a sudden when people are like with Mad Men, that they're like, oh, this breakout star, John Hamm, and you're like, breakout? Like, this kid's been around since the late 80s. Just the right project hadn't happened at the right time. And then, of course, he's in his late 30s, early 40s, I think, when he got Mad Men. That's awesome. That's how it should happen for so many people. Kathy Bates, for those of you that don't know the story, turned down Three's Company. That wasn't the right project for her. She was like, do I really want to be that character? No. And she turned it down. And granted, she didn't, she had a career later in life, but man, is that a great career.
Wow.
Right?
See, I didn't even know that story.
Isn't that kind of cool to know? Yeah, she was offered Janet, the role of Janet.
Damn it, Janet. I love you.
She would have had a totally different career if she hadn't stuck to her, to her morals, or I don't know if they're morals that actors have. I'm sure more actors don't have morals. The ideals. Let's go with ideals. That's a more sensitive word.
So, what do you want the most at this moment in your life?
Oh, to hug people again, to be honest.
Oh my God, you and me.
Oh, I'm not even kidding. I accidentally in early June, my best friend and I saw each other for a socially distanced lunch. I think it was right when restaurants had opened up outdoor seating and stuff. And we're like, oh, perfect. We can see each other at a table 6 feet apart and wear our masks and all that. And we accidentally hugged. And I got to tell you, it was sort of more magical than I remember. And then in September, I got to go to a socially distanced wedding in Oregon and give my best friend away to her new husband. And I remember saying in the speech, I'll never take this for granted again. I will never take the social connection, the emotional connection, the opportunity to be with someone in a room and really listen and really communicate with people. I'll never take that for granted again. Because I went on this like socially distanced road trip. I went to my dear friend's house in the middle of New Mexico, this little cabin with no electricity, no running water, certainly no corona because nothing was there. And then I made it up to Colorado to see my parents, again, in a little cabin in the middle of nowhere where they take a weekly trip to the grocery store sort of thing. and then ended up at this wedding. And I think it was not only the best thing that could have happened to me because it was just so much interaction and love and seeing people. It was also the worst thing because I came back to shelter in place, you know, because I take the shelter in place thing. I think everyone has varying levels, but I take it very seriously only because I know that if I was to contract COVID-19, I would hopefully, knock wood, make it through. You know, it would hit me like a bad cold. But what I'm truly concerned about is the other people in my life who are, you know, compromised, who maybe I see when delivering groceries or, you know, see in the hallway of the apartment building. I just, that part to me just seems like too much to handle, that if I was responsible for getting someone else sick, I would feel real bad. So I'm ready for it to be over. That's what I want most in the world. I want us all to be able to hug again. And, you know, and professionally, artistically, creatively, I've been working on a feature film for a long time now, and a script for a feature film. And I would love to see that get made. And there's some irons in the fire, as they say. Maybe it's fires in the iron these days. I don't know. I don't know anymore.
So our good friend Clifford Bell asked us to do Barbara Streisand's birthday party the last 2 years running. And the first year we did this great tune. And then the second year, like, all the tunes were taken. So like I called him and I'd be like, hey, how about this? No, taken. How about this? No, taken. So what we did was we just compiled the 25 songs that Barbara Streisand sang that weren't taken, and we put them into one song. And everyone totally thinks we're kidding when we say we're about to sing 25 Barbara. You're like, what? Don't worry. We do them, and this will be our last tune. Unless after this tune you cheer very loudly, keep me from leaving the stage. Not yet, hold on. People are drunk, and I like that about you. I say we just do this. There's no real explanation to how we came up with this. Wish me luck.
Down with love, with roses in her eyes and shoes. Down with love, the root of all midnight blues. Down with things that give you that well-known pain. Take that moon, wrap it in cellophane. Down with love, let's liquidate all its friends. Like moon, June, roses and rainbows ends. Down with songs that moan about night and day. Down with love, go on, take it away, take it away. No, seriously, go on, take it away. Come on, take it away. Give it back to the birds and the bees and the Viennese. Down with eyes, romantic and stupid. Down with sighs, down with Cupid, or other lit stuff that does. Down with love. Down with love, liquidate all its friends. Like moon, June, roses and rainbows. And down with songs that moan about night and day. You aren't the one, and I don't stand a chance with a ghost like you. The promised kiss of spring is here. Why does my heart go dancing overhead on the ceiling? Aren't we all just people? People who need people. We're the luckiest people in the world. And ding dong, the witch is dead. Witch, oh witch, well the wicked witch. Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead. Happy day, happy day. Happy days are here again. The skies above are clear again. And on a clear day, rise and look around you, and you'll see who you are. I'm true and true, red light and bluish. I talk this way because I'm British. Tell far Rockaway, don't pull the dock away, 'cause sailing home is Mickey Armstrong, beautiful, beautiful name. Barbara, can you hear me? The sky is blue, the night is cold, the moon is new, but love is old. A bit of pate, I drink it all day. I'm Sadie, Sadie, merry lady, bow when I go by. I'm a corporation now, not me, myself, and memories like the corners of my mind. Misty watercolored memories of the way you don't bring me flowers, you'll sing me love songs. Gotta move, bueno, gotta get out, bueno. Gotta leave this place, gotta find some place. There's a place for us, somewhere a place for us. Peace and quiet and open air. Wait for us somewhere. That was 23. Somewhere at the end of this tune, because I talk to the trees, but they don't listen to me. I tell them to say either. I say either. You say neither. I say either. Take it away, give it back to the birds and the bees and the bee and me. I'm down with eyes, romantic and stupid, down with sighs, down with Cupid, for the lid stuff that dove, down, down, down I go, around and around I go, I'm in a spin. Loving the spin I'm in. Oh, what is this thing? What is this thing called? Love. Ladies and gentlemen, Shawn Ryan! Doesn't it just seem silly when they leave the stage? I just don't really want to have to leave. I'll stay all night.
Oh, by the way, Tracy Weiser.
Tracy Weissert. I love Tracy Weissert.
She sends her love. She was on a couple of weeks ago, and of course Naomi Grossman.
Oh, Naomi. I mean, literally, it's so funny when I was a kid, and I'll leave you with this, but when I was a kid, they would always sort of make it seem so schmarmy that they would say like, well, showbiz is all about who you know, and almost like they were like gatekeepers. And the more I learned as I got into it was like, no, we're all creatives that just need to find ways to work together. And even if we don't work together, just to find common ground. And that's really the coolest part about it. So when people say like, it's all who you know, I'm like, oh no, I say like, it's all who you know. Like, it's fun to be like, Naomi Grossman. I just walked up to her at a party one time and I was like, I'm so sorry. I hope this is not offensive. And she's like, what? And I'm like, are you Pepper? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe I'm meeting you. And then we became fast friends. It had nothing to do with like celebrity or fame or who was on what show or any of that. In fact, I meet most of the most famous people I meet is because I don't know who they are when I see them. And they're like, I'm an actor. And I'm like, cool, what have you been in? And they're like, I'm the lead on this TV show. And I'm like, oh, good for you. That's a fun job. I'll watch it now.
Right.
But yeah, so just keep building your community, everyone. You all have such a strong community at Performing Arts West. I mean, it's amazing.
All right, I look forward to our hug.
I do too. It's so great to see you.
You too. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing what you're doing. See you soon.
Okay.
Stay safe, everyone.